Hey, everybody. This is Bettye LaVette, and you're listening to Mako on Talking Blues.
In the very beginning, how did your love of singing come about?
It came about naturally. I mean, I could do it. As long as I've been able to talk, I've been able to sing. And it just was a natural thing. I always tell people that only 2% of the people in the world and birds can sing. And either you can sing or you can't. You can't be taught to sing. You can be taught to dance or fly or anything else, but you can't be taught to sing. So I look at it as a gift, and I have tried to treat it that way.
Did you know when you became a singer?
Oh, no, not a real singer. I have always been able to sing, but as my first manager, Jim Lewis, told me after I had 4 charted records, he said, "You're cute, but you got to learn how to sing." But he was talking about something completely different than having a hit record. And that is what so many of these young people don't know now. If you can look up in 63 years of doing this and say, I've had several records in the last 20 years, one every 2 years, and I've never spent one penny in my life on any music.
Tell me about Jim Lewis, because he seems to have been a really important person in your life.
Jim Lewis, for lack of better words, you could call Bettye LaVette because I was young. And I was cute, and everybody thought that I could sing. And that poor man had a hard time showing me where I couldn't, where if everything just changed right then, I didn't know how to do anything. And he had a great love for singers and musicians. And he was the assistant to the president of Local 5 in Detroit, the Musicians Union. And he put me in situations that I couldn't cute myself out of all the time. So that I had to defend myself when we were talking about these people with this show I just did with the Rolling Stones. I said, no, Jim didn't know I was going to do this, but he prepared me for it completely.
And many other things that you have done.
Oh, that's it. I only knew how to do one thing when he met me, and that was sing the 4 recordings I had, or 3, however many it was. But I had a little band called The Fun Company, and they were like 17, 18, and 19. And I was about 23, I guess, when Jim rescued me. And he made us rehearse. Just stuff we did not want to rehearse it all. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Sly and the Family Stone, Chicago, all that had just happened. And my band knew all those tunes, and I liked everything that was going on. And he had us locked up, literally locked up in a room rehearsing Lover Man. And I'm like, where in the hell am I ever going to sing Lover Man? And they had me sing Sweet Georgia Brown. I said, but Jim, please. I got a chance to take the lead role on Broadway in a Tony Award-winning play because they couldn't find anyone else who could sing as loud as I could, who knew those songs. Because all of my contemporaries, like myself before that, only knew my songs. And if he had made me learn all those tunes, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I would have been taxed every time something new did come along. When I walked on the stage at the Kennedy Center Honors, they said we want her to be on it. We only have one song left, and that's by The Who. Right. And I said, the what?
I want to get to that performance, but if we go back, like when he was telling you to learn some of these songs and just listen to these older tunes, what did you get out of that?
I told him he just wanted me to be old like him. I didn't get anything out of it. He was getting on my nerves. One night we were coming from this club in Detroit, and called the 20 Grand. Everybody was there every Friday and Saturday or Sunday. It was always a national act there then. And with him being a union man, I was at every opening night and every show. And you had to turn around this little curve. Everybody had to go the same way. It was you must turn right only, and you go around and get on the freeway, and everybody dispersed from there after they got on the freeway. We turned the corner, and Jim and I had been arguing about who could sing and who couldn't, as we always did. And I said, oh, hell, Sarah Vaughan can't sing. He said, he put me out of the car. He said, you are too stupid to ride. Now, I went on to tell you about how that's where everybody went, because the next car that came around the corner, I knew everybody in it. So that he made me get out of the car. And he said, you don't know the difference between having a hit record and being a star, for which you do not have to have a hit record to be.
Wise words. I mean, was there a point in your life?
Everything he told me has come back to beat me down.
But I wonder if there's a point in your life where you realized, oh my God, Jim was right.
Oh, yes, honey. I was maybe 30. I think when I went to do Bubbling Brown Sugar, I all the way there on the plane, all the way from the taxi to the theater, I said, Jim, I can't sing these songs. I can't dance. And I can't sing these songs. And I can't. He said, then the producer asked me, he said, can you dance? I said, of course I can dance. I'm blind. And he said, can you tap dance? I said, of course not. He said, but it's just another dance. And you learn the other dances, and you'll just be learning another one. And that it wasn't as simple as that, but it was just a matter of learning it. And so I did. And I did God Bless the Child, and I've got a right to sing the blues, and Sweet Georgia Brown, and It Don't Mean a Thing. And I just could not see where I would ever be called upon to sing those songs. And
also perform opposite Cab Calloway.
Yes. I figured I may work in a nightclub with him if he was still working with his old self. And the only reason Jim would have wanted me to work with him because they were both old and they were trying to make me old. But I had the show business that I got in show business to be in was over, actually, when I got into it. It was a show business of what I had seen on television. I didn't know anyone in show business. My parents sold corn liquor, and before we moved to Detroit, well, a little while after we moved to Detroit, but because there was always somebody at our house, they never went anywhere, out to see anything or whatever, at a jukebox in the living room. And there was always music playing. And the first time that I went on stage was the first time I'd ever held a microphone. It was the first time I'd ever been on a stage. It was the first time I'd ever seen a show.
That's crazy.
I know.
I was told, maybe I misread this, but I was told that you sang and then you were recorded like within weeks or months of you.
No. It was 1 week.
1 week.
I met my whole career has been like that. I met a young woman that I just fell in love with because she was what hadn't been named yet, a groupie. And she knew all of the singers, and she knew all of the pimps and all of the people in flashy suits with Cadillacs. And I ran into her the first night that I decided to go and see one of these shows that they had been advertising on the radio with all these people singing these songs that they played every day on the radio, the Greystone Ballroom. And Frantic Ernie Durham was the DJ, and he'd advertise these people all week. And he'd say, this Friday, this person's going to be there, whatever. And of course, I was 16. I maybe just turned 16. And I just also had a child, but they never stopped treating me as a child. I mean, so I still couldn't just up and go. But I went by dubious means and met Ginger, and I just loved her. My mother hated her. And then I went the next week, and she introduced me to Timmy Shaw. And Timmy Shaw, under the auspice of, would you like to be a singer, while hitting on me, he must have been I was 16, he must have been 26. And he was recording for a woman whose name was Johnny Mae Matthews, who could very possibly have been one of the first Black female record company owners and producers in the world. But she was so crooked until she'll probably be brought back up later on in history. But right now, while there's still so many people living who knew her, no one has anything good to say. So... but she was like neck and neck with Berry Gordy at one point. They had the same amount of money and the same amount of artists. And Timmy Shaw said, I want to take you to meet my producer. Word I'd never heard before. I'd heard it in movies. Took me to see her, and she had written this tune, My Man. And they were trying to get a young lady to learn it, sing it, and it wasn't working. So Timmy kept telling her, she can sing it, this girl can sing it. And Johnny Mae was like, okay, come on. And she sung it to me. And then I sung it back to her, just the way she sung it to me. I didn't know any other way to sing it, except the way she sung it. I had never heard it. Well, no matter. All I could do then was sing the song the way I heard it. I had no notion of my own about it. And I sung it, and she said, well, do you want to be a singer? I said, of course. And everybody I know in Detroit, people I didn't know, everyone was trying to record or write or produce or whatever. Motown still wasn't big, but everybody knew about it. And because everybody knew everybody at all of these recording companies, almost everyone sung, but most of them were at least 19 or 20. And Mary Wells then came, and she had all these recordings. And I said, I am going to be on television. And she said, well, learn the song and we'll record it. As simply as that. And this was on a Sunday. And that next Sunday, we went into the studio and we recorded it. That next Friday, she took it to Atlantic, because who was eventually to be my manager, Robert West. He was managing the Falcons and Wilson Pickett, and he had a good alliance with Atlantic. And so Jerry Wexler liked it. And the next Friday, the demo was played for the first time on the radio.
Wow.
And we spent that week before trying to figure out what I was going to change my name to. Ginger's name was Sharma LaVette. And I asked her, could I use her name? Because I thought it was so pretty. And I changed my name to Bettye LaVette. All this, the month of August still hasn't even out. We did it the first week in August. and the month still isn't out, and all of this is happening to me. I'm an Atlantic recording artist. I have a record on the air, and I have been singing for 15 days.
Had you done any singing before then? Like, were you singing around the house?
Yes, my mother always sung, and there was always singing. My mother taught me all the songs I knew up until then. And then with the jukebox there, when I was 2, by the time I was 2, or by the time I could talk, I knew all the songs on the jukebox because they played all the time. So in 1946, 47, 48, we were in Muskegon, and that jukebox was going all the time. And I knew all of those songs. And I didn't know that there were different genres. I knew songs by Roy Rogers and Dale Evans because my mother loved country music, and Red Foley. And I knew songs by B.B. King and Lightning Hopkins and whoever the blues singers were, because my father liked blues. And I knew gospel songs because all the gospel singers, when they came to Muskegon to do a show, all gospel singers drank. Well, they did then anyway. And they all came to have a fish sandwich, a chicken sandwich, and a half pint or a pint of whatever, the corn liquor that my mother was selling. And when entertainers get drunk, I don't care whether they're singing to God or whoever, when they get drunk, they're going to sing. So they sung there all the time. But I didn't know anyone else, and I knew I didn't want to sing at church. And I didn't know these other people on the jukebox. I didn't know where they were or how you get to them or anything.
How did you feel about your singing? Like, how confident were you with your voice?
Oh, not confident at all for a very, very long time. There was one point at which I lost my voice so much. They tried hypnosis because we saw that it really wasn't hard singing or anything. And I drank beer. Or I wasn't really, I drank because it was an adult thing to do. And everybody smoked. But I just smoked whatever my boyfriends at the time smoked. I didn't wake up in the morning looking for a cigarette. But it was a very long time before I was really confident in my voice. And there again, when I met Jim Lewis, he said, "Why don't you just shut up and go to bed?" That felt, oops.
So,
he was the most horrible man in the world.
So, if I'm not mistaken, you really hadn't seen many live performances before you went to that club.
No, but when the recording first came out, I did then because the first, that was in August. In December, I went on the road with Clyde McFadder and Benny King, Barbara Lynn, Clarence Frogman, Henry, and the Upsetters, who had just left Little Richard. And no, I'm sorry, it was the old Pauling band, who had been the Five Royals band. And the next tour I did was with the Upsetters. But I didn't know, we had lots of Five Royals records on the jukebox, but I didn't know that was their band. And while I knew Little Richard, I didn't know that the Upsetters were his band until later on. I didn't know anything but me and my little record. That's all I.
What was it like going on tour with people like Chuck Jackson and Benny King and Otis Redding when you yourself hadn't performed that much?
Well, with Otis, he had performed that much, but nobody knew who the hell he was. So like the people I mentioned in my book, when a lot of people got upset about things I said, I'm not even talking about people you know. I'm talking about the people I knew. And none of these people were those people then. So I'm not even talking about the huge stars that you know.
right.
I'm talking about people who were just as broke and untrained as I was, Otis looked like a country fool in his shiny mohair suit and red socks and patent leather shoes, which he wore on every show. And all the girls looked like I did, with big wigs on that we didn't know how to fix, and makeup that we wore in high school because no professional had put makeup on us yet. So but Clyde McFadden and then, of course, I had their records. And every time they opened their dressing room door, I was standing there.
How long did it take for you to be comfortable on stage as a live performer?
Oh, God, 20 years. Really, 20 years. I mean, I learned how to look comfortable on stage, but now I could take a nap on stage if I felt like it.
So you were signed with Atlantic at a time when Atlantic was the R&B label.
Yeah, everybody asks me all the time, why weren't you with Motown? I said, because Berry Gordy wanted to be on Atlantic in 1962. Everybody black wanted to be on Atlantic in 1962.
Oh, you did wind up on Motown many years later, but probably not the album that you would have wanted to make.
No, and not the Motown that I would have wanted to be in.
It's interesting. I always find fascinating about the things, and we talked about this before, but just the opportunities you had. You charted a number of songs early on from your first single or second single, I guess. And then you had a song, "Let Me Down Easy," which has done quite well over the years.
Oh gosh, it has. When I introduce it, I always say I never thought this song would have to last me for 60 years, and it has got me into deals that's the person who was spending the money. That's all they knew about me was "Let Me Down Easy." I recorded it for 4 different companies.
That's the song that was Odessa had done, is it not?
Yes, I was talking about shocked and stunned. And I was asking them, I said, but you're so young. Why would you want to sing something so sad? And they said, well, Mr. LaVette, you were only 18 when you did it. I said, yeah, I guess that is the point. I guess you can be as sad as I was.
And it's such a great version.
It's got such umbrage paid to me. I mean, for their video to come on, them in shadows and nothing but my 18-year-old face on the screen, I almost fainted. I have never been paid a higher compliment or as much money.
Well, I mean, and did you like it? Because I listened to that and I was amazed by it.
I was too. It was like me looking at something I had never seen before. I was just stunned. I was just absolutely stunned. And they have just been so gracious and kind and generous. And I still haven't met them. We were supposed to do something when they were in LA, but something happened with me on the other side of the country. So that didn't come about, but I certainly hope something will soon.
But this is also the song that kept you pretty well known in Europe, is it not?
It is as well. To show you a contrast, I just did a thing, I guess you know the Northern Solars in England. I just did a thing for them week before last in Blackpool. And some of them have been listening to Let Me Down Easy since they were 18. And I'm often over that, but there was sometimes I would only do one thing a year and it would be that. But I constantly tell them that from the stage and how grateful I am to them. And I tell them, whatever it is you see happening to me, no matter with whom it's happening, they are responsible for it because I could have died any of those long lulls, 2 and 3 years in show business, that's not good. But they kept something happening all the time with Let Me Down Easy. And I was there week before last. And then last week after, I was in Chicago with the Rolling Stones, and the promoter requested Let Me Down Easy. And I was able to keep 150,000 people quiet for 3 minutes.
That's fantastic. I want to also talk about you working at Muscle Shoals in the early 70s. And this was another album for Atlantic that, called Child of the 70s that you recorded. Tell me about that album.
Well, I really thought that we had all the ducks in the row that time. I liked all of the songs. The Swampers, who weren't the Swampers at the time, they were just the guys who played in local shows. And I was back on Atlantic, which is where I wanted to be and shouldn't have left in the first place. I had Brad Shapiro, who had just produced all the string of hits on Wilson Pickett. And they got this big promotion tour together. And then they called and they said, we've decided not to go forth with the project. Would you please send the plane tickets back? I can't believe it. That still smarts when I say it.
But it's interesting that, I mean, when I think of this, there's a song called Souvenirs, I believe it's on that album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a John Prine song that I have seen you perform, and you own that song on stage.
Well, it made John cry. We were at the, just before he died, we had both been nominated that year. And then the next year we were both nominated for something, and he died right in that interim. But I did get a chance to finally meet him. That was the first time I ever met him. But I didn't know who he was for maybe the first 10 years after I did it, because I'm not really a music enthusiast. Not since I was young, not since maybe before Let Me Down Easy have I, or maybe before He Made a Woman Out of Me, have I sat and just listened to music and who made this and what's coming out. And I like politics and television and my flowers, my cats.
Okay, but you have a way of making songs yours. Like, to me, you own that song and many others. You take somebody else's song and make it yours. And you make it a Bettye LaVette song. It sounds not like the original.
That's because the other person isn't singing it, then I'm singing it. So it has to be me. I don't make it that. That's who I am, and that's my opinion about the song. That's the way I feel about it. I resent when people say cover songs. I always say Pat Boone was a cover artist. I have an opinion about the song. There are nothing but words on a piece of paper. And if somebody had brought it to me, it would have been a Bettye LaVette song. Somebody had brought it to Jackie Mason, whoever. It should be it should belong to whoever's singing it while they're singing it.
Which is true, but easier said than done. I mean, you have the ability to do that. I don't know if many people have that ability to do that. So where does that come from?
Oh, God, if I say Jim Lewis's name again, when I die, I'm going to slap him. He made me listen to all those songs because he wanted them to become usual to me. He was hearing things in my voice that I didn't even know I had. And when I sounded different on someone else's song, it wasn't because I was trying. It was because I couldn't sing it like them. And I thought that was bad. He said, no, just sing. So he asked me who I really liked. I said, I really liked Ray Charles. And I really liked Etta James. So he let me listen to a lot of songs that I knew that they recorded that weren't theirs. And I said, but I can't do that. I can sing it like one or the other. I can sing it like them, or I can sing it like the person who did it. And he was like, sing it like you, idiot. I'm like, there is no like me. I don't have a way to sing this. He said, so what you're telling me is you feel exactly the way Ray Charles does about this song. I said, well, no. He said, well, then sing it how you feel. I said, but no, they don't want to, I didn't understand that. I thought in my heart that the song went as close as you could get it, like it goes. And I thought that if it sounded different, it was because the person sounded different. But I thought that you should do your best to try and sound like the song. And Jim said, no, that's not the way it goes.
How long does it take for you as a song stylist to own that song? Like, 'cause if you're not out there listening to a lot of songs and thinking, oh, I could do that better, or I could do that differently. I don't, if somebody comes to you and says, you should do this song. How long does that take for you to say, yeah, I can do this and this will be me?
Well, if I don't say that. I don't say, yeah, I can do that and this will be me. I just sing it the way I feel about it. If I like it, I know that there are oft times that I have to sing songs. For instance, when I did the thing at Blackpool a couple of weeks ago, I recorded a song after Let Me Down Easy called I Feel Good All Over. A completely stupid song. Feel like doing the swim to your door with the jerk. But there are no more stupid lyrics than them, their eyes and Sweet Georgia Brown and whatever. So just sing how you feel about what you're saying. I sung I Feel Good All Over week before last better than I've ever sung it because I took it seriously and it was a stupid song. And I sung it funny week before last because now I've done theater and I've done everything else. And I knew I didn't want to sound like a 17 or 18-year-old girl. And I just had them slow it down a little bit. I said there will be no bouncing at all. No bouncing. And it feel like doing the swim to your door with the jerk. I feel good all over. And when I recorded it was feel like doing the swim to your door with the jerk. I feel good all over. Because it was a silly song. I was young and my voice was kind of funny. And I didn't know that I had these, I just didn't understand what I was doing. And that was what Jim spent so much time trying to teach me. And it's what so many of these young people need to do. Understand what it is they're doing. Just because it's selling, it doesn't mean it's good. Hell, crack sells.
Okay, so one of the things that you did, you mentioned doing that tribute to The Who at the Lincoln Center. You did Love Reign Over Me. And that became Interpretations, the British Rock Songbook.
Yeah.
I presume that a lot of those songs that you did, you probably didn't grow up with or had a direct connection with.
I knew 6 of them. I think we did 12. I knew 6 of them.
Right.
But my husband he knows every song that was ever recorded by anyone in the entire world. I don't care what kind of song it is. But because he was young during that period and he was actually at Woodstock, he has that kind of thing going. So he'll refine the tunes in terms of, you should listen to this, because I didn't know anything by these people other than the things that had managed to get to black radio. I had already recorded a couple of Beatles tunes, and I did 3 or 4 on my show. And my band, who was younger than me, did things by the Rolling Stones and other people. So I only knew them like the public knew them. I didn't know them for myself. But when I did the interpretations album, which was a great deal of fun to do, and Rob Mathis, who was just the most brilliant individual in the world, and I came into rehearsal, at which I was dreading, because I had heard the song. And I said, I think I can sing the song. I said, but I don't think I can sing it like that. So Rob Mathis said, well, how do you want to sing it? And I sang it a cappella for him. And he said, we're going to take an hour or so break. I'm going to write her a new arrangement. And that was it.
Wow.
And the arrangement, if I hear it now at the beginning of it, it's so beautiful, I think, and it just makes me cry. And it was done specifically for me, and it made Pete Townsend cry. And so I had the privilege. I do have good days. I had the privilege of watching Barbra Streisand turn to him and say, did you write that? And I had the privilege of seeing him cry and seeing Roger Daltrey with his mouth hanging completely open. And right in front of me, there was Sister Reed. Aretha Franklin was sitting right in front of me. Beyonce was sitting about 5 seats over from her. And I call it my Three Stooges slap.
I mean, I presume that was a big moment for you. You've had many, but that was
one of the biggest moments of my life, because my career has certainly not gone the way I had thought it would go, and certainly not the way my contemporaries have gone, certainly not the way Barbra Streisand and Aretha Franklin's have gone. And to have been there in that town, in the same place, you don't know how hard it is not to be successful in the same town. Detroit is not as big as New York, really, because there aren't that many people there. So I was literally living on top of these people and their extremely hit recordings. And it was a glorious day for me. Just to see Beyonce was like, who? And Aretha was like, she's not dead.
I presume a lot of people got to see that and continue to because of YouTube. Am I correct to assume that led you to perform at President Obama's inaugural reception?
Michael Stevens was a producer of the Kennedy Center Honors, and he had me to do the inaugural thing, which was seen by 800 million people.
Wow.
And so that is the biggest audience that has ever seen me. But it was, that was really another shining moment. But the other moment was just so personal to me, for every female singer in the world to be there and to have all been so much more successful than me. I was so thrilled to just have that successful moment.
Yeah, for sure. And it's well
they all still make more money than me, but I had that moment.
And everybody got to witness it.
Right.
Okay, so another big moment, and I would imagine it was a big moment, was what you had mentioned before about opening up for the Rolling Stones a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that was more like a bucket list. Isn't that what they call them? Bucket list. Bucket list. Yeah. That was something that I could scratch off my bucket list. And but that was, I can only get so excited about people who are my age, who started when I did. Actually, my first record came out first, I think.
Yeah.
And who are millionaires, and who can bring 150,000 people to a stadium. So I had to turn into a pure fan to be excited about it. So I was more relieved about it than anything else. And I was very, very grateful and glad that I was able to get to dance all the way down that 50-foot runway and do the camel walk all the way back up it.
What was it like performing in front of that many people? I know that you've performed on television in front of a lot of people, but I don't know if you've performed in a live.
I performed in front of that many people before. Remember, my manager was the union man. I performed at everything that they did in Detroit.
Right.
That would include Tiger and Lions games and everything else. So it wasn't that, but all those things. He put me everywhere. He took me to see everybody. He put me in all kinds of situations. And he said, he put me in a little room that only had maybe 50 tables. And that is more intimidating because you can see every face.
Right.
And it's, but all those are things that could happen to you. Once again, these children do not realize that could happen because they can't see beyond now. Just like that night when I said Sarah Vaughan couldn't say. It's hard to see now, and especially if you're being successful. But I saw, the only person I can think of right now, I saw Red Fox standing in his driveway talking to the United States government, and they were carrying all this shit out. So you don't know how this is going to wind up. Right. But I would say if I could give you a little more clarification, should you ever be stupid enough to wander into a small joint that holds 50 people with a drunk me in it and an acoustic piano? I don't know who's in the top 10 female right now, but I wish that all 10 of them could, how many of them they are, could find themselves in that circumstance.
Steve Jordan, I believe, has played a key role in your musical career over the last little while.
You would be believing absolutely correct. I love that man so much. He is, of course, he's responsible for the Rolling Stones thing.
Tell me what he means to you.
Oh my God. Do you know Jackie Wilson?
Yes.
Do you remember a song he did called To Be Loved?
Yes.
Well, I would sing, to be heard, to be heard. He hears everything that I think. If the situation comes up, he pretty much knows what I will think about it. My friend, former friend, Carol Friedman, had this notion. She said, she's a photographer and she's done some of my best photographs. She said, I want you to do this Bob Dylan album. I said, great. You sing the songs and find somebody to pay for it. You can put my name on it. She said, well, if I can't sing, I can find somebody to do it. So she comes back. Once again, it's the Johnny Ray Matthews, you want to record this week. She had in her mind that she wanted Steve Jordan and Larry Campbell to be on it. And she wanted it to be Bob Dylan tunes. I said, Carol, nobody is going to pay for me to do an expensive folly such as that, because what they do is look at your record sales, and mine have never been great, and nobody's going to let me do that. So then she calls me back and she says, Universal wants to talk to you. My first inclination was to say, about what? Is something missing? she pulled that whole thing together. And I went to the meeting with Danny Bennett was still president then. And that was leveraged because his father was a singer who's pretty much suffered the way I did. And had an unusual sound and style, and nobody else sounded like him. So when I knew Danny Bennett was president, I felt immediately like he would hear me. And I guess they let him listen to some of the stuff that I did. And I had a meeting with him. And then next, it was Larry Campbell, and whom I had never heard of, and Steve Jordan, whom I had never heard of. And because the things that they've worked on are things that I listened to. And they came to the meeting, and I said, I am going to do this because I will be on Universal, but I don't know whether or not Bob Dylan, Steve Jordan, Larry Campbell, and I are going to work. So I told him, like I told the people when we did the Interpretations album, and like I told Boyfriend about the Rain or Me, I said, I'm not going to sing these songs anything like this. Now, Larry Campbell had been with Bob Dylan for 18 years. And he said it was just, he said to play something I've played 18 years differently. He said that was just a delight for him. And for Steve, it only takes me 5 days to do an album, and I never record anything over twice. So they're just songs. They're just songs. And if you've got brilliant people like Leon Pendarvis and the other people that Steve Jordan chose for me, there is no need to be in the studio 8, 9 hours and 3 and 4 months. They're songs. God, they aren't pictures.
But obviously you bonded.
We just immediately. He's the first producer that I've had since Johnny May Matthews, who came from the same surroundings as I did, through the same channels. And he's just was able to take a different direction because he was in New York. But I really feel that if I had grown up in New York, I probably would have been involved in many more things. There just weren't that many things in Detroit to be involved in. But I got a chance to come to New York right away, so I knew where it was. So every time I did get to do something, I came back. They sent my little poor ass back home 5 times. I lived in New York 5 times. And my mother had to send me y'all 5 times. But something really big happened in each one of the times. It was just one of those times when all the sugar turned to shit. But when Stephen and I are in the studio, he just actually knows me. He knows me, and I haven't been in the studio with anyone who knew things about me that weren't even spoken, because I'm like his mama. So he knows things. Sometimes we'll look at each other and just crack up because we both understand what it is we're cracking up about. And then we both had this as I explained when I'm on the stage, when I'm doing the songs from the new album, the tune on it called Mess About It. Stephen put this into this James Brown thing for me. I don't know whether it was trying to kill me or what, but when I get ready to do it on stage, I say, my producer Steve Jordan and I had the dubious honor of traveling with the hardest working man in show business, me in 1965, and he in about 1975 or 80. But we had kind of the same experience with Mr. Brown. And so we decided to pay homage to Mr. Brown, which he likes to be called, with this song. And while I'm talking, I'm taking my shoes off. And I say, some stories need to be told barefoot. And as I said, I don't know whether Stephen did this tune to get rid of me or what, but I have to dance to it. It's just not a groove that you can just stand in one place and listen to. Have you heard it?
I have. And so this is from your latest album, LaVette, and it's the songs of Randall Bramlett, right?
Yes. That man is just, he writes everything I would write if I could write.
How did you come about choosing him? Or how does that happen? How does the idea for this album happen? Is it your idea or is it Steve's idea?
No, I met Randall. I did a show with him in Maine or Massachusetts or somewhere anyway. When I got to the gig, he was coming off. And I couldn't see him, but I could hear him. And I don't even know what he was saying, but I loved the melodies. The melody of the one tune I heard coming up the steps. When I got into the dressing room, I listened to the next one. So I asked my road manager if he would ask him if I could speak to him when he was finished. And when he came off, he came to the dressing room. And I said, I don't even know what you were saying. I said, but I love both those songs I heard. I said, do you write songs for other people? He said, yeah, they'll do them. I said, well, would you send me some songs? He said, of course. So he gave me a CD that night, and I brought it home and gave it to Kevin, because Kevin can listen to everything. I can't listen to all of that. And he's curious. He sees an unopened CD. I don't care if it's by everybody from the Mickey Mouse Club. Oh, it's unopened. And he's never heard of the person. Oh my goodness, that's like sex. You know? So he listened to them and he said there's some pretty good tunes on there. And I've forgotten what was on it, but we listened and I liked some of them too. So then Universal called and told me they were letting me go from my contract. And I said, okay. So I really didn't know what was going to happen next. And then I guess maybe a month later, Steve Jordan called and said, why don't you find somebody to write some songs just for you? I said, I have some. He said, well, let me hear them. Like, he still has not said what we're going to do. I sent them to him. He said, I like all of them. I'm going to pay for them, and I'm going to put them on my label.
Wow.
So I just said, I didn't see that coming.
That's amazing.
Oh, but my entire career has been like that. It's never been where I could say, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do for the next 19 months or something. I'm very, very, very grateful. But my career has just, every time it's been over, it's been over. And every time it starts with a bang. That's why I call this my fifth career. Because every time it starts, it's like, oh, she's back, she's going to do this here. Ed Sullivan has come back to life and he's going to start his show or let us start. It's just huge. And then...
But when that happens, something else always happens.
No, every time it happens.
But not for long. I mean, it's...
People say, don't you ever want to quit? I say, I quit every time it goes wrong.
But somebody always calls you. Something else always happens.
Always called, always, always. I mean, there have been longer times, but I mean, sometimes even those times when there wasn't a record, somebody would call me in between to do something I had never done before. I know one time I hadn't had a record in a year, and a friend of mine became before whatever the cable companies are now in Detroit, we had Barton Cablevision.
Right.
And just his vice president happened to be a DJ that I had known forever. And he gave me a television show. And I just told who was going to be appearing around the city and whatever. But I was being seen every week and making a paycheck. Then he let me do a Christmas special, which they ran all over the Christmas season, and then gave me this big bonus because it was one of the most watched local cable things. And they gave me a crew, and I went all over the city doing Christmas songs. I had the Contour standing on a corner with me under a street light singing White Christmas like the Drifters. And it was really well put together. But I had no idea I'm not one of those kind of dreamers. I don't dream like one day I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I can't believe everything that happens to me. I'm like, really?
Well, even when Atlantic decided not to put out Child of the 70s, did you not wind up doing a commercial and then winning a Clio for that not too long after?
Honey, I got up under the table and I stayed for 3 days. I just drank wine. I came out and peed and came back and cried. And drank. That broke my heart. It broke my heart for many years. As I just said to you, when I've said what they said to me on the phone, I could feel a little tingle. I've never been hurt that bad before in my life. And then Jim Lewis called and says, I have entered you into a talent contest. I said, okay, what? Now you're just going to kill me now. A talent contest? I'm a professional singer. And I won. It was me, a guy who went on to get a little bit bigger, Carl Hall, the 3 Degrees, and several people. But anyway, I won. And my Schaefer beer commercial ran for 2 years, wherever they sell Schaefer beer. And I won, and I think it's an Obie award, which I didn't know I had won until I met Kevin, because Kevin knows all music things. And he called BBDNO, who was the advertiser who was handling the account, and I got my statue. It was the first statue I got in this 5th career when Kevin and I first got married. So that was the first thing I had won. I didn't know I had won it 10, 15 years before. But he bugged them and they found it and they sent it to me.
Wow.
There's you've won a few more statues since then, partly from the Blues Music Awards or the W.C. Handy Awards. I believe that Mike Kappas has something to do with maybe putting you into the blues world. Is that correct?
He has something to bring me up out of the crypt. He couldn't make me a blues singer. He had control of the blues world and stages all over the world. And he literally sent me all over the world. It would be people that come to see whoever had just gotten popular with the blues resurgent. I can't even remember right now, but that's for the people that come to the festival to see in Zwiep, Spain, and Newark, Italy, and up in mountains and down in caves. But I was on the show, so they had to see me too. And many of them knew my old records. But the internet helped me connect all the people in Newark, Italy, and wherever. But before, there was this 10 or 15 people in this place, but all over the world, because I've never been on a small record label. So when Columbia or Atlantic or whatever send out records, maybe they only promote one or two, but they send everything that they put pressed. So my records were all over the world, and at least 5 people liked them everywhere. So the internet helped me pull them all together. It still wasn't a million, but it helped me pull them all together. And then Michael Catlett sent me around to be my own ambassador. And all the shows were so succinct and so tight and together. And A Woman Like Me was such a well-crafted album by Dennis Walker. That was the first career after this. Well, that was the second career after the first
one. Right.
And now we're up to 5.
Okay, I don't know if you do this anymore, but you used to sing a Sinead O'Connor song, I Do Not What I Haven't Got, at the very end of your show.
I will be singing it next week at the Smithsonian.
Whoa. Okay, so tell me, what does that song mean to you, and why did you... I don't know if you still close your every show with it, but...
No, I don't close every show with it now. I close it with...
But tell me what that song means to you.
Well, at the time, it meant... It meant an awful lot. I was just really grateful for it has happened. Because once again, I felt optimistic that it was going to grow. But now it almost means I lied, because I do want several more things. But I'm stunned at the things that I've acquired and the awards, the almost awards. I thought that I would die broke and unheard of. And now I know I'll just die broke. But I won't die unheard of.
So tell me, what are the things that you still want that you haven't gotten?
Oh, some more money. I don't want to have to. I'm still hustling. I'm too old to be hustling. And I don't want to hustle. I want to sing, but I don't want to have to sing.
Right.
You know, like everybody else, I'd like to retire. I'd like for them to just sit Ray Charles' career right in my lap. Show up, everybody's sitting down, everybody's dressed. It's an auditorium. 2-hour show, standing, sitting, lots of money, expensive tickets, and I go home. Like the show I just did at the Carlisle a few weeks ago. Nobody leaves out of there with a tab under about $500.
Right.
And they're all seated, and I can do anything I want to do. And I'm almost 80 years old, and that's what I'd like to do. Anything I want to do. I do not necessarily want to race up a 50-foot runway. I am grateful that I was able to do it and that I was asked to do it. But the gig the week before at the Carlisle was the bee's knees.
What are the triumphs that you're most proud of? And this will be my last question to you.
Oh, gosh, I'm proud of so many things at this point, baby. My granddaughter just got her master's in psychology. My grandson just became a professional sommelier. My daughter has been a school teacher for 45 years, and she's going to retire next month. It took me 50 years to find a husband, but I have one who adores me and who is a fan. You know, it's kind of hard to find someone to be married to in this business, too, because they either want to be you or they're jealous of you.
Right.
And my husband is just a fan. And I've been, thanks to Mike Cass, all over the world. And I'm proud of those things. I'm very, very proud. I've got 2 little dark marks, which now goes with the bags under my eyes, but still little marks under both eyes. It's where I got in this fight in the 5th grade with a girl named Dolores. And she grabbed my eyes with both of her fingers, and her fingernail prints stayed there for all of my life. And I got the chance to come off the stage and see her, and I didn't recognize her, but she recognized me. And she was in a wheelchair, and she looked our age, and I didn't. See, the people who used to do my hair, they told me, they said, God is never going to let you have long hair because he knows you'll be fooling it in people's faces.
Bettye, it was a thrill talking to you before. It's a thrill talking to you today. Thank you so much for doing this.
So much for talking with me. It's been wonderful. You are just a pleasure to talk to.
Oh, so are you. I love your music. You keep doing amazing things. I'm in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I hope I'll get a chance to do something in Canada. We haven't done anything really in Canada this past year. The people are so kind to me from when I'm there. It's kind of like being at the Carlisle when I'm in Canada. They're so nice to me.
Well, I hope you do come back here. I would love to see you again. And thank you.
Please do. Don't you dare let me come close to you without coming to see me.
okay. Thank you so much for doing this.
Talking to me, Michael.